Medfield TV.
Hello Medfield, welcome to the newest edition of Medfield People and happenings at the what used to call the dump and we now call the transfer station and recycling area. So that's why we're here today, is to try and get everybody online of what's going on there, who's in charge there, and what's going to happen in the future there. So here is Megan Sullivan, who's the chairman of the committee, Rachel Brown, who's got a special little job on the committee, and they will tell you a lot about what's going on in Medfield at the transfer station. So why don't we start with Megan?
Hi Ann, thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here. We have a lot going on at the transfer station. We've got a really dynamic transfer station committee, and we are really thrilled with the things that are coming up in May. We've got Medfield Green Month, we've got the kickoff of our food scrap composting program, and we've got another new initiative, which is mattress recycling.
That's going to be very interesting.
Yep, we've got all that going on. So just a little bit about Medfield Green Month, if I might. We are really excited. I think this might be our third Medfield Green Month, and we've, you may remember we started as Medfield Green Day, and then we expanded it to Medfield Green Month, and then we made it twice a year. Mm-hmm. So this is our May production of Medfield Green Month. And we have electronics collection, we have a styrofoam collection, a building materials collection, and a textile collection. Did I miss anything? Styrofoam,
no, I think
can and bottle drive coming up, so it's really good. So you need to just either get online, or we sent a flyer home to everybody, every household, with what the program is all month. So it's something different every month. So we're excited about that going on. And looking forward to another good month with that.
Okay, Rachel's going to start a new kind of recycling.
She is.
What are you going to recycle?
We have been very fortunate that we wrote for a grant with the Mass DEP for organics. And we had looked to the town of Sherborne that is currently recycling food waste scraps. So at their recycling center, they take food waste, and then they have contracted with a firm, EOMS, that takes that food waste to what people may have known in the past as Cassidy Farm or the Hidden Acres Farm in Medway, where they make it into commercial compost. So we were successful in receiving a grant from the Mass DEP, and so we will be starting doing food waste composting at our transfer station starting May 7th. So what that means is that we will have large green totes at the tip floor, and our goal is to really reduce the amount of food waste that goes onto the tip floor. And by doing so, not only are we being good earth stewards in taking that food and then adding it as a supplement to soil, but we're also reducing potentially our trash cost, because the cost of recycling that food waste is less than it being trash and incinerated.
Yeah, so I've heard that as much as 25 to 30% of the trash in our town is food waste. Is that pretty much go in line with what you believe?
Right. The Mass DEP, sort of overlooking at all municipalities, believes that 20 to 25% of the trash by weight is food waste.
That's amazing to me.
And so really one component is not only to actually reduce the food waste, but also to work with residents who find this sort of later on after you're working, reducing the food waste at the sort of the tip floors, is to reduce food waste at the home. So being more conservative about food waste. And actually the middle school does this a lot when they do go off on a sort of an education unit talking about minimizing their own food waste in the cafeteria. So we're very excited about the program, and we've got some support for residents. We're going to be providing what we call composting starter kits. Now, these starter kits are not a requirement to participate in the program, but they can be beneficial to those that want to get started. And so we're going to be selling these food waste units at the transfer station during Medfield Green Month, 9 to 1 every Saturday. And then we'll also be selling them at the Town Garage DPW building office. And so I'll show you what's included in those.
Can you show us a sample? We'd like to see it.
So this is a kitchen scrap bucket, and you can see that it's sort of aerated on the side, and so people will typically say, oh my gosh, that must smell. And the reason that it is open is to actually help the food scraps dry, because if you dry the food scraps, they are actually odor-free. It's when the food is moist that it creates mold, and that's the smell that you will have. So it has a lid that locks, and you can see inside that we have a biodegradable liner. So this is not plastic, it's made out of cornstarch, and so the advantage is that you can have your food in here. After it's full, you can just take it out, you can knot it, and then we are providing also this great pail that you probably could have underneath your sink or in your town garage or even outside. And we love this pail because it is animal proof and odor proof. It has a gasket lid. This is very easy to open. You can sort of open it with one finger. Nice big pail. This is 3.5 gallons. So all you need to do is just take your food waste, stick it in here, come to the transfer station, open up the tote, and just sort of stick your food into that tote. And then the food waste is going to be collected weekly by our contractor and then sent over to the farm. So we will have sort of clean liners and clean totes weekly. And the lids on the totes at the transfer station, on the top, they will tell you what food waste can be composted. There's something here for everyone at residents, because many backyard composters they have the disadvantage that certain products they cannot put in their backyard compost bins. So that would include meat, fish, bones, poultry, for example. The backyard composters don't generate enough heat to break down those materials.
Oh, okay.
But because we're going to a commercial composter, they can generate a greater heat that allows for the breakdown of those materials.
Oh, so you can still use the bones, I'm surprised.
Yeah, so the bones will actually work. So backyard composters can use this. Those that are on septic systems, they should be using sort of the town's transfer station for food waste. And then also those that have in-sink incinerators, they will benefit from this program, because there's certain foods that you're probably tossing out, like corn husks, or I always have a problem with avocado pits, you know, the real fibrous material that you can't, you know, send down the sink disposal. So great advantage to use that. So we're thinking that it's going to be a great addition for the residents of Medfield.
Be interesting to see what our volume will be of regular trash after this is in operation. How much our regular trash will decrease.
Food is so heavy,
yeah,
that with every person who participates, it's going to make a difference. Yeah. Because we pay for our food waste. When we pay for it, it's by the ton. So if we have less, we will pay less.
So it should save us all money.
It will save us money.
And we're fortunate too that EOMS, the contractor that's taking the food off site, is going to be tracking the weight too. So that helps us to understand the value of the program. I think it's important to say that there really is no cost to residents during this pilot study, because the grant is actually paying for the transportation, and we've been using sort of education materials and paper materials that the grant is paying for. So we are looking to residents, for their contribution to these starter kits. But we'll be evaluating the program in June of 2017, because that's when the money from the grant runs out, to decide whether this is something that we want to continue with. But we've seen that there's been history in other communities of having this type of program for a number of years. The city of Cambridge, for example, has this doing it curbside. There are a number of private contractors that are collecting food waste at the curbside, and so it's certainly not that we're sort of the movers and the shakers. This is sort of a trend that is happening across the state.
That's really something new. What else is new down there?
Could I just ask Rachel a couple more questions? Because I think this is so great. So what food can't go in?
So what food, thank you, Megan, what food cannot go in is any liquids. So liquid items, oils, grease, you don't want to put those in these containers. What we suggest with grease and oil is that you have a glass jar, and that you pour the cooking grease into that jar, seal it, and then that does actually go into the trash.
Be grease. And how about if I don't want to go ahead and invest in the starter kit? How would I do this program?
That is fine. You don't need to invest in any of these items. There are people who are already doing their composting and have compost units. We've heard people who actually say that they put their food waste in a plastic bag and then refrigerate it or freeze it. And we suggest that you would continue to do that. Just basically thaw out your plastic bag sort of slightly so that you can get the food waste out, and just bring that to the transfer station. What you cannot do...
It's a good idea. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
Keeps the odor down. Just make sure that we cannot have plastic bags in those toters, because that will actually contaminate the toters. And our concern is if we get a lot of contamination, they will actually dump that load. And so it really minimizes the effectiveness of our goals.
So these bio bags, those aren't plastic, right? You said that.
Right.
And,
yeah. So really these green bags that we would also be providing in these starter kits are made out of cornstarch, and so they very rapidly biodegrade. In fact, we've heard that sort of 2-3 days they start decomposing. So our expectation is that you're probably, a family of 4 or 5 is probably going to go through 2 or 3 of these a week. And so that's why, we said transferring it into a pail. We've heard people sometimes are using kitty litter containers, just any kind of pail that you might have. I had a metal pail that I was using for my food waste composting.
I have one of those, or I often get the spinach in the plastic container.
Yes.
And then I leave the plastic container on my counter, and I can fill that with
That's a good idea
food
too.
scraps, and then it's got the nice lid. And if I have room, I do put it in the fridge until I'm ready to get rid of it. One of the things I think is great about this pail is, I know we were talking about a couple different sizes, and we ended up on the smaller one, but I think that's a nice size, because even if it does get a little dirty on the inside, that's still going to fit in your kitchen sink.
Right.
You're still going to be able to bring
rinse
it
it out.
inside, and it's not really too bulky.
Right.
So I love that about it.
And it's fantastic because, you could keep it outside because it is animal proof, and it definitely is odor proof. We did a launch at the annual town meeting, and I had actually used food waste in it, and I had a discussion with my husband. I said, should I have the food waste in the bucket at the town meeting to sort of prove a point? And he said, you want more people to really embrace the program. So we decided that we would bring it clean, but it certainly, we proved the point in our family that with the lid on, you can't smell the food.
Good for you.
And I'm so excited about it too, because, and I would think other people in Medfield are as well, because one of the things that happened at town meeting when we were handing things out is we got a lot of positive feedback right there and then. People, oh, this is about time. I've heard other cities are doing this. We got a little shout out on social media by somebody who had heard about the program and was happy we're doing it. So Rachel, this is really a great program.
And if it's about a quarter of our trash, that's even more.
Isn't that great? Right, if we could do that.
If we can get the word out.
To save money and divert things from the tip floor. Because our trash actually goes to an incinerator.
Yeah.
So if we don't divert it, then it's ash and it's no use to anybody ever.
Right.
So
I like saving money.
It's a win-win.
It is a win-win.
We can feel good because we're being great earth stewards, and then we can also feel great that we're managing the expense for the town.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job with this.
that's great.
You have.
That's great.
So what else you got new down there?
So also coming in May is our another grant-funded program, which is Mattress Recycling. So you have, up until now, you've been able to bring your mattress and box spring to the transfer station, of course, but we just dump them on the tip floor, and they are just trash, and as I said, they get incinerated. So with this new program, we're actually going to have a container down at the transfer station that's just for mattresses and box springs. And we'll fill it, and then the contractor will come and take the mattresses and box springs, and they will be recycled.
And no charge to drop them off?
No charge to drop
Great.
them off at this point. Yeah, so we're excited about that. What they do to recycle a mattress is they cut it out, they score it, and they peel off whatever fabric and fibers there are, and they recycle those. And then there's usually a metal frame inside it, and they recycle that as metal. And then whatever wood is, they recycle that as wood. So it's really a nice program.
Wow.
We're excited about that.
That's an interesting one. I never thought that day would ever come.
I know. So any mattress that's not wet or infested with bed bugs or moldy, we'd be happy to have. So it can be stained and torn and ripped because it's just going to be recycled. So bring those down and we'll stack them in the new container and be diverting waste from our trash
I
stream.
wish we'd had that 2 years ago when I moved downsized. It would have been great to have that.
I know, it's nice that we have it now. So
It is.
yep, and again, we have the grant for a little while, so we'll see how it goes, and then if it's successful, we'll see about funding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just like to say about recycling is that we, and our committee, is that we're working really hard to increase recycling and decrease the amount of trash people have, and really trying to encourage people to recycle. You probably know it's mandatory in the state, and we have a police detail that is at the transfer station on a weekly basis to keep people who do not have transfer station stickers out, but we're hoping that we can encourage people to be recycling more and diverting things from the tip floor, so we don't have to go to an active enforcement or some kind of program like that. We would rather do it voluntarily. Hopefully that people will say, you know, I really would like to save money for the town. Like if the environmental impact doesn't sway them, we hope that you would recycle because it would be less expensive for the town. We try and make that as easy as possible. We've got so many things down there that you can recycle. We'll have the mattresses. We have brush piles. We have a metal container, which at the moment is back behind the tip floor, or behind the transfer station building.
Right.
Also back there is a place to put propane tanks. There's a place for white goods, like an old refrigerator or a stove. Those go back there. In the front of the building, we have a container for rigid plastics, and that's any plastic that is like oversized, like this pail, if you were to recycle that, or this, which is not a container. These sorts of things could go in the rigid plastic bin. And actually, that's really important to use because these things take up a lot of space. And when they're taking up a lot of space, we lose our efficiency with the transportation, because if we filled everything with Little Tykes toys and playhouses,
Sure.
then it doesn't weigh very much, but we have to transport it, and that's another big aspect of the cost. And then, of course, we have our recycling area, which takes all our containers and paper and containers, papers, metals,
bottles.
cans, bottles, all those sorts of things, paper. And one of the things I'll just give a little shout out about, and actually people have been really good about, is we've put new plastic bag collection containers at the front of the recycling compactors, and people are using them.
Oh, that's
because
great.
you may not know this, but plastic bags are like public enemy #1
I've heard that.
for the recycling facilities. It slows down their line. It makes it dangerous for the people who work there. So if they have one message to get out about your recycling, it's don't put plastic bags in.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes things like container wrap, which are around cases of water bottles or cases of toilet paper, cases of packs of diapers. All those things are considered plastic bags, and those should go in the plastic bag recycling at the front of the compactors. So that kind of brings us around full circle to, we've got some textile bins that we are collecting textiles in. And again, another shout out, but textiles are never trash. As long as they're clean and dry, your textile in any condition, they would love it to be recycled. So at its best use, when you recycle a textile, like an old shirt, it gets reused as a shirt. But if it can't be reused as a shirt, then the next level down is it's used as a rag. And if it can't be used as a rag, or if it's your old rag, then they shred it and turn it into things
strips,
like insulation under carpeting or for your car. So there's really no textile that needs to be thrown away unless it's wet or dirty. So I usually just have a bag and I put all my textile scraps in it, and if they really truly are rags, then I just tie them up and I say, textile scraps or rags, and I put it in the bin. So we have a wide variety of bins for you to choose from. And then when we are moving along in the transfer station, we get to one of my favorite areas, which is the swap, and that's open for business.
And
May
newly
through
paved.
October, and
Newly paved.
and we're going to have some nice new tents, and really have a super operation down there. Nancy Irwin and Mary Pat McSherry kind of lead the charge for the swap area, and we're so grateful to them for all the...
And they love it.
They do love it. It's definitely a labor of love, and it's definitely labor. I mean, they're there, I think they're there 3 days a week, basically from May through October. And God bless them and thank them very much for coming down and sharing their time.
But it's fun for people. It's like going to a store and not having to pay. I mean, it's wonderful. You go see anything that's there, you can take it home.
Exactly. I love
great.
the opportunity to give somebody just give your items a chance at another life.
Sure, and many are.
And close by, yep. One of my favorite stories was I was down at the swap, and it was a cold day, and Nancy had a cold, and she probably shouldn't have been there, but she's all bundled up in her winter coat and her hat, and a gentleman is there, and he has been here. He keeps coming. He comes and he finds his mother's china, and he had been looking for a few soup dishes.
Oh my God.
And of the exact same pattern. And he
That's
talked
amazing.
about how he'd been to flea markets and yard sales.
Oh my Lord, love it up.
And all over looking for this. And then there it was. And he had only intended to get a few pieces, but we're like, you have to take the whole thing.
Oh, why
It
not?
belongs with you, right? It was just the best story
that's
ever.
fantastic.
That he'd been looking for it, and there it was, and he was the right person in the right place at the right time.
Oh, that's I like that.
That's a
I've never
great
heard
place.
that story.
Yeah. That
No,
was
I
a
like
good
it.
one. Yeah. So it's a great place, and the people down there are really friendly, and they have worked very hard to get some organization to it, because in the past, right, in the faraway past, 5 years ago, at the end of the day, we just took everything and threw it away.
I know.
And that was so sad,
That
because things
bothered
had
me
a
a lot.
useful life. And now things can stay there up to 2 weeks with the addition of our structures that keep everything dry. And they keep an eye on it so that things don't stay there for all summer. But the goal is to try and keep things moving, but that everything has a chance to be seen over the course of that would be 6 days or so, which is nice. So we've added a little bit of structure to it, so that the dishes all go in one place and the furniture's in another, and the sporting equipment, which I think actually makes it you know, a little easier to navigate if you know exactly what you're looking for, and if not, you can just browse.
Yeah, I know when we moved, a lot of my stuff ended up in the swap, and it was gone like a couple of hours later. It was, and it's great. Haven't you ever gotten anything from the swap, Rachel?
Yes. My greatest find was a hobby horse that I got last year and gave to my riding trainer's 5-year-old daughter.
Oh, perfect.
So yes, I definitely find value in the swap.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. And they are always looking for people to help out. There are kind of two kinds of volunteers, those who would like to commit to big, long shifts, and those who just come and can help for 15 or 20 minutes, and then those in between.
Yeah.
So they really would just love a pair of hands. If you really only have 15 minutes to spare, they can put you to work for 15 minutes
Sure.
on an as-needed basis. But it's a really nice group of people committed to, you know, to the swap and to diverting things from the trash. Is really where it all starts.
It's a great
from.
cause. It saves us a lot of money.
Doesn't it?
It really does. And
Yeah,
gives it
it's
a lot
nice.
of fun. I mean, it's like a party over there sometimes.
It can be. It can be.
It can be, yep.
And I think that we're sort of recognized with a number of local communities as having a very terrific swap. I remember when I was calling surrounding towns about food waste composting, and I spoke to Needham, and they said, oh, you know, we sent someone over from Needham to go and see your swap because we've heard such wonderful things about it. So we are very fortunate, you know, here in Medfield that we have such dedicated volunteers to really elevate it to a higher level than you'll find in other communities.
Yeah, when we thought of this years ago, 3 of us went, Joan Kiesling joined, she was usually Joan Kiesling and me, it went. And we went to different towns to see what they had done. And it was kind of interesting to see how scant some of the provisions were. This is a long time ago, though. And they're a whole different set now because so many towns are using it and finding out it saves money. And also is fun. It's both. It's both.
Yeah, it's
But I remember the first times we went, that Wellesley was the best one back then. Better than, well, Sherburne's was pretty good, so was Dover's. We went to Walpole. We went all over the place. We just had little adventures on different Saturdays, seeing what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad ours is working out so well, thanks to those other people that work there.
It is. And you know what, really, all the programs that I've mentioned and everything really don't take place without the support of the DPW, from Ken Feeney to Bobby Kennedy, down to Jean Nouet, who you know, is the
He's great, too.
supervisor at the transfer station, and his new friend Bill, who works down there. They really have been so supportive of our, you know, when we're starting, they sound like crazy ideas, right? We're going to start composting food scraps. But then as they learn about the program and we get more information, they've just been nothing but supportive and really helpful. And they're really pleasant people to work with. So
And I hope whoever
it's been
takes
so
Ken's,
nice.
I hope whoever takes Ken's place is just as good.
Yes, me too.
Because
me
he
too.
followed a man, Bill McCarthy, who was fantastic. He was so good.
Yeah, they are big shoes to fill.
They are, and so Ken's will be big too.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very tough job.
Yeah.
But I know whoever it is will be good. They better be.
Yeah.
Or we'll beat them up, right? We got a lot of women, we can take care of them.
That's right. So there's a lot of things that we're up to, and this is the kind of thing that we work on at the Transfer Station and Recycling Committee, which we're all members of. And I would just like to give a little shout out that we are a dynamic and active committee, but also looking for new members. So if anybody, these sorts of issues interest anybody, we'd love to hear from you.
Would the Monday
And-
morning meeting time be a deterrent for a lot of people that have a job?
I'm not sure. It has worked actually for the people who've said they were interested. We meet the second Monday of every month about 10 a.m. So I would actually love to hear from people who were interested first, and then if the time didn't work, I think that's something we could talk about.
We could.
I know that people have a lot of things going on in their lives, and sometimes things fit better than others. But I'd love to hear from you if this sort of thing interests you. We've got a lot going on and a lot more ideas too. We've got more crazy ideas coming down the pike.
But it's good to keep the older members on, but also it's great to have some new blood.
It would be great.
Yeah, one member that I think I missed a lot was Scott Colwell, because he knew all about the construction materials, and he had very knowledgeable about the items in other towns and what the other towns were doing. He had a unique view of swapping and saving and recycling and reusing. It was great.
He did. And we've also just recently said goodbye to Tony Santori, who I know served the town very well over many years.
He's been on for a good while,
the committee. So we appreciate his service as well. We'll miss him. But so because of those departures, we have a couple vacancies. So we'd love to hear from you. folks out there.
Male, female, whatever.
Exactly.
Young, old.
Right, and so I would also say too that we are, some of the people we've attracted to the committee lately have been really avid recyclers, but we'd like to have people who have a variety of interest in recycling for the perspectives. You know, we need to recycle because it's mandatory, but we'd love to hear from people who have different passions, you know, so
I think you're right.
be nice.
Do you have anything else special you'd like to bring up? No good stories?
Oh, I would like to do a shout out for hazardous waste. The residents may not necessarily know that we have a reciprocal arrangement with other communities in the area. So if they miss Hazardous Waste Day in Medfield, they can go onto the town's website under the DPW, and we have a listing of other communities, what their hazardous waste day is, and the location of their hazardous waste site. In order to participate in another community's hazardous waste, you do need to get a special permit, and that permit you can get by going to see Donna Semino, the administrative assistant at the town garage.
Okay.
So often when I do Medfield Green Month and I'm up at the tip floor, I'll hear from people, oh, I missed, you know, Hazardous Waste Day, it's just one day. This really does give our residents an opportunity to use surrounding communities. So that information is up on the website.
That's a good point.
And I think that that's one thing that we're looking to do too, is to, and this program certainly does that, is to communicate more about recycling, what can be recycled, answer people's recycling questions, so that they feel comfortable that they know where various items go within the transfer station. We have, through a grant last year, a lot better signage on the tip floor that explains the signage. We're learning by going to recycling conferences about communication that is being used in the industry to help people understand single stream recycling and what that is. So the residents can expect that we'll be sort of looking at that communication piece and finding ways of getting the information out.
So good points, very good points.
Those are good. One thing I heard about at a recent conference was something called the wishful recycler. And that's somebody who, they'll put things in their recycling bin because they wish they could recycle them. And one of the things, in addition to plastic bags, keeping those out of the recycling stream, you really don't want to put things in the recycling that don't belong, that you don't know for sure belong in there.
Right.
So they've seen things like a metal dog leash,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So that's metal. You would think it could be recycled because it's made of the same material as a can, but it can't go through our single stream recycling. And that's why we have the metal bin around the back. So if you can keep the recycling stream as clean as possible so they get the materials, just the ones they want, that's going to help the economics of recycling.
Good for you.
Throughout the the country. It makes it more profitable for everybody. And I have to say I kind of was a wishful recycler, but I'm not anymore, because now I understand that I really just put in there what I know for sure can be recycled.
I've done it too.
So when in doubt, throw it out.
When in doubt, throw it out. Good line.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, both you guys. I think you've been great. Can we bring you back in a couple months?
We'd
We
love to
can
come
see how the
back.
food's, I'd like to see how the food's going, how the new pavement at the swap area is going. So if you could come back later, I would love to hear more and get an update.
Well, thank you for having us. We'd love to.
Go. So thanks to
Thank you,
Megan
Ann.
Sullivan, Rachel Brown from the, what do we call it now, Transfer Station and Recycling
That's
Committee.
it.
It's no longer solid waste.
That's right.
But I appreciate your coming very much. I do.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
thank you very much. And thank you people out there for watching Medfield People.
preceding was a production of Medfield TV, Community Shows.